this good?
Yeah, it works for me.
All right. Hello.
I love that you're going to blend into the couch.
Hi.
This does not happen very often. This is actually my good friend Chris Bartlett. We've known each other for a while.
That's right.
Kind of at the beginning of your getting paid to do your hobby.
Right. Let's see. Did we meet at Disney?
Yeah, Star Wars Weekends.
Star Wars Weekends. Yeah. That was 2010 when I started there.
Yeah.
I had been cast as C-3PO 4 years before that. And, Yeah.
But somehow you ended up at Walt Disney World.
Right.
Yeah. But you got cast as Mary Frank. Was it who cast you as?
Yeah, at Lucasfilm. Well, what happened was, okay, so the whole...
So start at the beginning.
Yes.
So young Chris starts building suits.
Yeah, okay. I grew up as a Star Wars fan. I saw A New Hope. Well, it was just the Star Wars at that point in '77. And that just ignited my whole imagination as a kid. Every birthday was Star Wars. Every Christmas was Star Wars. I loved it. And in '83, there was on TV, there was the making of Star Wars. I think it was like on CBS or something. And then you get to see all the people who are, making stop motion animation and costumes or actors or, everything that goes into it. And I told my young 13-year-old self at that time, one day I'm going to work for George Lucas. That was my, I don't know what you call that. Your
dream.
Your dream, right? And but I didn't know how I would do that. It was just something I'm just going to file back there. This is what's going to happen. And I went on about my life, and by the time I'm 30, I was like, I really want to get into filmmaking and maybe acting, but I didn't know how to start doing that. So I started building costumes and coming to conventions and playing characters for real. And, I'm not just walking around as a guy in a costume. I'm, playing the character. If it's a stormtrooper, I'm like, all right, let me see some identification. Or if it's a Boba Fett or, C-3PO. So I was building costumes, and then I took 3 years outside of my regular job to build a costume of this distinguished protocol droid. And the first time I wore it, I was at an event where Anthony Daniels was appearing. It's a very small event. He was opening the Boston Museum of Science, where science meets imagination. And I was wearing this costume. But it was just spray can gold. It wasn't shiny or anything, and I weathered it to, make up for the fact that it wasn't all shiny. And when I got there, I got to meet Anthony Daniels. And he says, all right, let's hear the voice. And I said, my goodness, hello, I am C-3PO, human cyborg relations. I'm not getting in there with you. That area is restricted. Will be deactivated for sure. And he goes, pretty good. Let's maybe slow it down a little. And I go, okay. And then we had a really nice interaction. He was talking to me about how the limbs are all separate machines from the body, and the head separate from, that was really helpful. And Chris Sanders, we know, my good friend, who was playing, he did R2-D2 for many years for me. He took this little short video of me walking in the suit, and then I get an email from Lucasfilm. And I'm like, is this a prank? What is this?
Yeah.
And it said, we'd like you to come in to Lucasfilm and have a meeting about your C-3PO costume. What? I don't know what that means. Don't you have 15 of these? Why do you need to talk about mine? And so they flew me out to Lucasfilm, and I had to finish assembling it. Because when they called, first of all, I spent 3 years building this, and when they call, I don't have it. And I'm like, you idiot! You have the worst timing ever. And they said, where is it? I said, oh, it's in Los Angeles. It's being chromed. It's not going to be ready in time for when you need it. And they were like, oh, we know that shop. Hi, this is this is Lucasfilm. You have a C-3PO costume there. We'd like it done this week instead of in 5 weeks. And they said, okay, no problem. They said, okay, we took care of it. And so it was being chromed. It shipped up to Lucasfilm. They flew me out to Lucasfilm, and I finished assembling the costume I'd spent 3 years on at Lucasfilm in one of George's conference rooms. And then we had the audition. The audition was a motion audition. They wanted to see the walk. You know, that. They wanted to see the movement. And but I wanted to nail this audition. So you see the lights, you expect, you know, hello, I am C-3PO. You know, that's what I did. And they said, well, we have a voice guy, but we need someone in the suit when he's not available. But, you know, it's a bonus that you do the suit. That's good. Or do the voice. So anyway, then they said, you're going to fly to Australia and you're going to do this commercial or this, it was an event where I was animating to a voice track by Tom Kane. And it was great. But while I was there, I did the voice too. And they were like, oh, we could use him for the voice. So anyway, this happened in 2006, all this stuff I'm telling you. I'm 36 years old at the time. And now it's been, next year it'll be 20 years that I've been playing C-3PO for Lucasfilm and Disney. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
what was your first costume that you built?
One of these Stormtrooper kits. You know, you assemble it like a big model kit. But that's just one part of it. The second part is playing the character. And I really loved learning, you know, trying to approximate the voice and how they move through a crowd and what their energy is. And so that's what I was doing. And there's a couple of us who were doing that, but mostly, you know, you put on the costume and that's enough. But as an actor, I wanted to be, and I just was using it as my acting school.
So what drew you to C-3PO? Like, why C-3PO?
Yeah, I'd never seen anyone do it. So there was no 3D printing in 2006. There was no fan group who built C-3PO costumes or anything. And so, yeah, I just thought, like, oh, I'd never seen anyone do it. I wonder if I could do it.
But it's still not a very, like, you've been, like, when I know people that do C-3PO, it's still like a handful of people even today.
Yeah, it's not very, well, I mean, you know, it's a very, very specific set of measurements that needs to fit into this. It's not like there's a lot of
Oh, no, I
elastic
remember
there.
visiting with you when you were filming Mandalorian, and you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, I basically can't eat, Elliot.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Like, we can go to dinner, but I'm going to sit there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fish.
I'll take a Caesar salad, salmon. People say, well, so what's your workout regimen? And I'm like, well, I run a lot away from donuts and ice cream. I don't drink milkshakes. And anyway, but, you know, I just try and watch what I eat. I don't have a big workout regimen. I just try to stay active and drink a lot of water. Yeah.
So like I know, like, we spent a lot of time together at Star Wars Weekends. You know, you were doing lots of appearances for Lucasfilm, but then you made that transition to film. How did that happen?
Well, first of all, working at Disney, I don't know about you guys, but I was a Disneyland kid. My parents would take us every other summer to Disneyland. And my cousin worked at Disneyland. He was friends with Goofy for like 35 years. And when I was like 8 years old, he did something that is a terminating offense. He took me backstage as an 8-year-old and introduced me to the performers. And for me, it didn't ruin any of the magic. It made it more magical because, again, I'm seeing these people that do this for a living, and they make people happy and tell stories. And I just thought that was really, really awesome. But so then when I got the call to come to Disney World for on a contract as to be C-3PO to do live meet and greets and stuff, I was I was now with these super talented performers, and I was just in heaven. I always wanted to. I don't know if you've ever thought of this, but what would it be like to be locked in Disney World after they close down and nobody knows you're there? You know, and that's that was that. You know, I got to experience that. All the streets are shiny, wet, clean, and nobody's around. Anyway, that was the dream come true. But yeah, then we did all live meet and greets, and we would talk. I would talk to people about, you know, what they're wearing, and my goodness, you're surrounded by space. Yes. Anyway, we talk about that, and it was really personal interactions, and
people's jaws would just because they didn't expect him to talk.
Yes, Master. What is your name?
It's Elliot.
Master Elliot. And where are you from?
I live in Florida.
The Florida system. I've never heard of this. Is it safe for droids?
No.
No. Yeah.
It's not safe for anybody.
So after the first weekend, we were scrubbing the internet looking for reactions to C-3PO in the park again. Because remember, in the 90s, he was in the park. But he wasn't talking. And so the first weekend, people were like, Disney has a real live walking robot as C-3PO. What? This technology is amazing. And that was mission accomplished. We wanted people to believe it was a real robot. And then the next weekend, we looked again, and they were like, I think it's a person in a costume. But he's talking, and I think it's just recorded lines. And then the next weekend, people were like, no, he said my name, and he commented on my crazy space jacket. And how are they doing this? Oh, it must be remote. There must be a guy over here who's watching and doing it remotely. And then it became this magic illusion that, when we go to a magic show, we want to explain it in the most crazy technological manner we can, or spiritual manner we can, and it's really the simplest solution. It's a guy in a suit who can do the voice, and that was it.
I remember them thinking, "There's a guy with a computer backstage.
Yes,
he's pushing prompts."
Right? No, he said my name.
But the irony is when we look back at it now, so he was hired as a contractor, so he didn't technically work for Disney at all. And what an amount of trust to give somebody. Like, you legitimately could have just started swearing at people, but
right.
You have such character integrity. Like he would everybody would be on break, and he'd still be like practicing walking or moving or off in a corner, or watching clips to make sure he was doing the voice right. Like, he was always very meticulous about it. And then we got to go on, the cruises for free, basically.
Yes. Yeah, going on a Disney cruise, a Star Wars cruise.
Like
where,
every other week.
Yeah, and you're there for a week, but then you only have to work for like 4 hours on one morning, and then the whole rest of the week you're on a cruise. Like, this is the best
and we'd
life
hang
ever.
out with Steven Sansweet or
Right.
Ash. Like, we'd all be at the same dinner table, and it was like, as a fan, it was the dream.
Yes. Yeah, so what was your question?
How you made that, because
Oh, yeah, that's right.
even for me, like, I all of a sudden remember you're like, so I got a call to make some props for the show, and then was it like you showed up and nobody fit in them, or?
They asked me to come in. They knew about my work. Somebody who worked on Mandalorian knew about my work as C-3PO, and they needed a droid for Q90, who's a bounty hunter droid in the first season. Who's my favorite character that I play. And they asked me to come in for a screen test. And when I got there, I saw the concept art on the wall. I'm like, oh, a bounty hunter. This is so cool. He looks so sinister and so different from C-3PO. So we put on the costume, top half, and then I'm like, where's the bottom half? Like, I looked amazing from the waist up. And they were like, oh, we're just doing the top half today. Oh, okay. So I do this. A screen test is they're just filming you on a kind of a gray background, and they give you a scene. All right, so you're looking for something. So I'm like, oh, yes. I'm searching around behind boxes and stuff like this. And I'm thinking, like, well, how does this guy move? Is he like Boba Fett? Is he, I don't know. So I'm just trying to try and stuff. And they're like, okay, we're going to let Jon Favreau look at this, and we'll let you know. I'm like, okay, cool. So, but when they put it on, I have to walk from here to over there to where the thing is. So I only have from here to there to come up with an idea. And so what I would do is I was walking around the studio where people were painting props and stuff like that, and these big bug eyes with this crazy teeth mouth, and I would just walk up to them and I would look at what they're doing and stand there just a little too long and stand a little too close, and they were like, God, that's really creepy. And I was like, yes, that's what I'm going for. But anyway, I did that. And then I didn't hear anything for like 3 weeks, and I get a call for this production assistant calls and says, we'd like to bring you in for the Fairy Man. And I go, what show is this? She goes, it's the code word. She gave me the code word for the name for the show, which didn't help at all because it didn't tell me. But I had a feeling it was for this Star Wars show, and she goes, it's the Fairy Man. I go, well, so I'm going to be in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to be shirtless with woolen legs and hooves and like a little beard and wings, maybe glitter makeup or something.
No, but you got there eventually. You got to the furry legs eventually.
I did, yeah. So anyway, I get there, and it's, that's right. I get there, and it's the Kubaz species, like the spy on Mos Eisley talking to the stormtroopers. He's got goggles and a snout and a hood, and I'm like, fairy? Oh, no, when I'm on the phone with her, I just made a joke. I was like, what am I going to be, playing a flute or something? And she goes, yeah, you're going to be playing a flute. How'd you know that? And I'm like, I am going to be shirtless. So I get there, and it's this snouted character, and I was like, what is this? She goes, and the person goes, this is the Fairy Man. And I look at the text, and it's ferryman. Like, I'm going to be this, the mythical character guiding, people across the vast expanse. And I'm like, oh, ferryman. And I'm playing a flute. Like I'm calling speeders over. That's funny. And they're like, okay, this looks good. And I go, so what happened with Zero, that cool bounty hunter droid? They're like, oh, you got that too. Oh, did no one tell you? And I was like, no, this is the best day ever. Yeah, so that's how it transitioned to that. That was the next stage. Yeah, so my first day of filming was the ferryman, and stepping up onto, because I've been playing C-3PO for a while, but it wasn't necessarily in official Star Wars narrative. It was like Super Bowl commercials, the Oscars, or any live action appearance of C-3PO on television in the last 20 years was that. But there was no real like narrative. It's like guest appearance on David Letterman or something. So as the ferryman, I step up onto the stage, and it felt like boom, my whole life of fandom slowed down to slow motion for this moment as my boot stepped on this icy pier, and there's like potato flakes are blowing by and water, and Mandalorian is standing right there. I'm like, oh, this is okay, don't screw this up, and then that was just a really special day of filming. And then I get the script for Zero, and I find out Zero's going to be flying a ship in Star Wars. And I'm like, well, that's going to be the best day of my life. So, but there was a long time before we got to that day, and I was anticipating it and really looking forward to it.
I love how nonchalant they are on the set. Like when you're there, I got a chance to tour the set, and we were there, and we're walking around, and we're like, ooh, is that the cockpit of the Ghost? And they're like, no. The Ghost is over there. And you're just like, what?
Right.
Well, you want to see it? Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and you're trying to keep your composure because you're a professional, but inside you're just exploding, volcano of
Well, I remember
fandom.
you I'd be like, so what are you doing? I'm like, I want to tell you so bad, but I can't say anything. And I was like, no, I know. I understand the NDA, the 27-page booklets that are like that.
Yeah.
But
yeah, you're afraid to
because you don't want to lose this opportunity.
Yes, and you respect this because this is so special. This is something that I'd always dreamed of but never imagined would really happen. And so when it does, you want to protect this like, the greatest gift that it was for me. So yeah, that's how it got started into that. The next stage, though, was when I was playing Zero. they found out I had been building protocol droids for fun before I was C-3PO. And they said, could you build one for us? And I go, I already did. Here you go. Here's a Death Star droid that I just finished, because I was still building stuff. And they were like, oh, amazing. This will be our bartender in season 1 of Mandalorian. So it's a silver Death Star droid. And then I just kept building, and they just kept casting me as droids. So I built all the suits that I wear on the show, except for Zero. And it just, every day I got to set was the best day of my life. the new best day.
So did auditioning stop, and it just became the like, hey, we need you to build this suit and be in it?
Yeah, there was no more auditioning after Zero, which is not, that's not the usual way it goes. But we did have show and tell days. So show and tell days were a couple of days before filming. You come to set, and we get to see the actor in the suit, in the environment that it's going to be in, and it's like a little screen test. And then we get to see, we get feedback or notes, or just like, great job, this is going to be great. So that was always fun too. But then after we stopped having those, and then it was just like, be to work on time and bring all of your stuff, and then that's how that worked. So it was a lot of extra work than a typical actor going to set, where then somebody dresses you in their costume, but man, it was something I really loved doing. I was not born.
Well, it's like the double, it's the double awesome, because not only are you wearing a suit, but you're wearing a suit that you built.
Yeah, and the way that I was building it was like, what do I want to see on screen as a Star Wars fan? Like, we've never seen 4-LOM in action. He's just standing there on Empire Strikes Back, But then I went to the archives. I was invited to the Lucasfilm archives, and I got to look inside the head, and there's little light bulbs in there in his eyes. So I'm like, oh wow, what if they were lit up? What if his eyes were lit up? So I built one jack for Obi-Wan Kenobi, and the eyes were illuminated. I just kept building stuff that I wanted to see on screen. And then we do these, on your first day of that character, we do these licensee photo shoots. So what they do is they take pictures, scan you, take pictures so they can make toys and stuff like that. And then they do a set of character poses. And they're like, okay, go. And then I was just doing, yes, I want to do the poses I want to see on the toy box, like I want to see the package of like, yes, yes. And they're just like, yes, keep going. And I'm like, whatever. And so that's really, I would say to creative people, don't ask permission to try things that you want to try. Just let whoever your boss is tell you, okay, let's do take 2, and this time do something different, or do this, whatever. But a lot of times we hold ourselves back by saying like, oh, I wonder if I'm allowed to do this, or is this gonna look bad, or is people gonna not like this, or what? No, just try it, because the first 4 times you do it are gonna be, not great, but that's okay. Just get them out of the way by doing them, and so that's a skill I learned, was to fail early.
So when you showed up on set with some of these new costumes, did they ever give you like feedback, like, hey, can you change this, or can you move that, or?
Yeah, sometimes they didn't know. Oh, this is another secret, by the way, is a lot of times directors don't know what they want until they see your take on it, okay? As an actor or as a creator. They know overall what the story is and what we're doing here, but the detail stuff, how you're going to approach a character, how you're going to make him move like an insect or whatever, that's up to the actor. That's why they hire you, and that's why they trust your instincts, is because you're good at what you do. I'm going to let you do what you do. So you just come up with ideas. That's what Jon Favreau would say. I'll come back to that. But yeah, so sometimes they don't know what color the droid should be. what amount of weathering, things like that. If you come to my table, there's a bunch of photos, and I'm going to tell you this to answer this question. In the Book of Boba Fett, anybody watch Book of Boba Fett? Okay, so you remember the infamous scooter chase scene, right? Yes. I play a protocol droid that's crossing the street and almost get hit by a speeder, right? It's supposed to be this comic, kind of moment. But the direction was they wanted a chrome silver protocol droid, which would look like C-3PO but silver. And I just, I'm a nerd. I said, I'm a little nervous that when we get on Tatooine and the sand reflects on the silver, that it's going to look gold. And that might be confusing to to audiences, that they might think it's C-3PO. This is what I said. They said, no, it's been approved, it's fine. Just bring it on the show and tell day and we'll look at it. And we got to set, and I'm doing my, spinning around like I'm gonna get hit by a speeder and stuff like that. And they said, it looks a lot like C-3PO. I was like, oh, if only there was a nerd here who could tell you that. And they said, well, we're filming in 2 days. What are we going to do? So we collaborated on a solution. And I said, I do have this Death Star droid over here. We could swap out the chest so that looks different. And then we could just weather the crap out of him so he's super dirty and grimy. And then what if we did these markings on him? And I gave them like 4 different ideas that I drew and showed them, and they picked one. And so we collaborated that way. So sometimes the way that characters come about is we're solving problems. Maybe they're a story problem, or maybe it's a costume problem. And then you have this really unique, interesting thing. And I think that's something that's so cool about trying stuff, making mistakes. Stuff comes out. You've seen this in your music. You're trying stuff like, oh, wow, I wouldn't have come up with that if I didn't have to solve some mistake or problem. So that happens a lot, and they're so collaborative because they're nerds too. And working with Doug Chang, who's a VP at Lucasfilm, but he was a concept artist on all the prequels. We're such similar spirits in that we're doing what we want to see on screen. Creating what we want to see on screen too. So, yeah.
I've never thought to ask you this question. What's the longest time you've ever been in the suit?
Well, in the suit, not taking a break, because I can take helmet breaks, and that's good. But in the suit, not taking a helmet break was about 4.5 hours, and that was for the Rose Parade. The Tournament of Roses parade on January 1st. They put me on a float. Lucasfilm built a big float, put me on the float, and then left me there as I go off into Pasadena on this. So for the first hour and a half, waving. Lights lit up, waving. And then the rest of it, you just close your eyes and go into this Zen kind of like, everything's going to be fine. This will be over soon, and someone you trust will be here to take you off of this float and take you out of the head. But it looks like he's wide awake and very happy to be here, but I'm just like, taking it easy. That was the first time. And then a couple years later, Lucasfilm made another float, and then they wanted C-3PO on that one too. And I'm like, again, we're going to do this? And it was another 4.5 hours. And so that was the longest. But being, neck down in the suit, which you can't sit down, that was about 6 or 7 hours on a McDonald's commercial. That was my first commercial. So you can't sit down. I can go like this. Like if there's a couch, they'll lay me down like this. I'm like, okay, this is better, I think. Yeah. The vision, is very limited. If you take your hands and make a little diamond with your fingers like this. Arm's length, all the way up. You got it. Okay? That's all you can see at a time. So some C-3PO will, looks like he's, and I'm taking snapshots and building a mosaic in my brain of all these little, because you don't want to be like that doesn't look like C-3PO. So anyway, that's but there are worse droid vision costumes than C-3PO.
So when you're creating movements for droids that aren't C-3PO, do you have like a design in your head that you go back to and go, okay, cool, so looking at what this character looks like, this is how he would move?
Yeah. Anthony Daniels, the original actor, he mentioned that the limbs are all separate machines, and so they all move separately individually. So, you know, if 3PO were up here, he said, you know, like that. And that's the droid, that's the foundation of a protocol droid. Now, if you're a bounty hunter protocol droid, you're a teacher protocol droid, you're a pedestrian protocol droid, you're a mercenary, a bartender, a server, they're all based as a droid, but they all have different, you know, like this one might be 200 years old, this one might be high performance, this one, you know, is where she's programmed to be, like the teacher droid. C-3PO is always anxious. He's never where he's supposed to be. That's his energy. Because he's a program for etiquette and protocol. It's my primary function. But not destruction, right? But the teacher droid, where Grogu is stealing cookies from his classmates, the teacher droid is she's exactly where she's supposed to be. So she's very calm in her movement.
I've never thought about that. I've never thought that C-3PO was never actually doing what he was programmed to do.
Except for in Obi-Wan Kenobi, the very first episode, C-3PO is finally where he's supposed to be. He's interpreting between aliens and humans, and he looks much more calm. And so that's something you can look forward to. That's all intentional. He's not frantic because he's finally where he's
doing
supposed
what
to be.
he's programmed to do.
Yeah. So you get, it's a really fun challenge to come up with how a mercenary moves, you know, like Zero or One Jack versus a teacher versus a pedestrian who's, you know, like I mentioned the one in Book of Boba Fett. He was all worn out and grimy, so I thought, oh, and he's supposed to be kind of funny. Maybe his joints are a little more loose, so he has to be spun around, you know, by the speed of the speeders. My goodness, you know, like that. And so he's kind of like a little more loose, whereas One Jack, who is in Obi-Wan Kenobi, I played him like a grasshopper, so his arms are like, and he's dual wielding pistols. So he's like this when he walks. And I remember Deborah Chow saying, give me that hunter energy. I'm like, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, it's a fun challenge to come up with different energies and personalities for these, and I base them sometimes on what they look like. Sometimes I'm building histories in my mind, like the pedestrian or like the teacher.
Well, there's a lot of time on set. You stand around a lot waiting for something to do, so why not think about who you are?
Yeah, I mean, you don't get a lot of rehearsal time for the character. You get rehearsal time for the scene, but the character, you have to come up with that now. And so a lot of it, I base it on kind of what he looks like or what her job is. Man, but that's so much fun.
Yeah. Favorite question asks, what gig got you your SAG card?
SAG card, for those of you who don't know, is the Screen Actors Guild, and that is the union that ostensibly represents you. And
in order to work in movies, you have to have a SAG card. But in order to get a SAG card, you have to work in movies. It's a mess.
And pay $3,000.
It's not as Florida. I pay way less, but California.
Oh, well, good for you. That's
like it's like $800.
Oh my gosh, really?
Oh yeah, no.
And then it's dues every year.
Yeah, but as soon as I film in California, I got to pay the full rate.
Oh yeah.
So that's why they keep filming everywhere but California.
So it's like, try and find work so that you can pay this money, so that we can represent you, so that you can find more work
and qualify for health care.
Yeah, you have to.
But you got to book a lot of work.
You
for
have to
that.
book a lot of work to qualify for healthcare. Anyway, all that aside.
But what gig got you your card? 'Cause
Yeah,
it's,
it was. I think it was Speechless. There was a show on ABC called Speechless where they were going to a Star Wars premiere, and C-3PO was on the red carpet, and with Kevin Smith. He was playing himself, and C-3PO was playing himself, and that was the one, I think, because before then I'd been doing commercials and things like that, so I didn't.
I think you had qualified, but you hadn't bought in yet.
Yeah, because like I said, it's expensive. So you use one gig to pay to get into the union, and yeah, so that was that one. But yeah, like doing the top 10 on David Letterman or doing the Oscars. You know, these are like every time they called was the next what? This is amazing. You know, doing the Oscars. I was on a cruise ship. Was I with you?
Yeah, baby.
Yeah. And I get this email, and it says, we'd like you for the Oscars in Hollywood, but we need to fly a helicopter out to the ship to pick you up off the ship. And I was like, whoa, this is so James Bond. But they didn't do that. So they just got me off the ship as fast as they could.
Yeah, the next time we pulled into port,
Yeah.
you grabbed your luggage and went. And then they found, they flew a guy from Japan to take your place. Because there weren't a lot of options for C-3POs.
No. Yeah. So, and I don't think he talked.
He did not, no, because he didn't speak English at all. Like, he had a translator.
Konnichiwa. Yeah, he said that.
Well, my other fun favorite fact is if you go to Disneyland, you have a C-3PO on display at Disneyland.
Oh, that's right, in 2015. That's right, I forgot. At Star Traders, when you come out of Star Tours at Disneyland, they're talking about moving it. I don't know if it's still there.
It's still there. I was
okay.
there. Yeah.
C-3PO standing in the window.
And R2-D2's head is on backwards.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's looking behind him. It's really weird.
It was, yeah. But I built and supplied that C-3PO, but he's been bumped quite a bit as they've been moving stuff around in there. So over the years, he's sort of like, they haven't taken him to droid maintenance, which is, you know, I told them they can call me, but yeah.
So when you built your original costume, how did you find out the details? Was it just staring at the screen and figuring it out?
There was a lot of, screen caps on the film, you know, taking screen captures and stuff. But then I also became friends with Don Bees, who is the droid wrangler and builder of the droids for the prequels. He was also the former Lucasfilm archivist. And he was so generous in, you know, like, how does the suspension system work in the legs of C-3PO? I never would have imagined, like, how does that work? And he told me how that works. And I was like, oh, wow. How great. And then he would share other things, too, about how things were machined or, you know, certain measurements or whatever. And we became good friends. And he's really, really very helpful in that effort. And then I got to see him later in the costume at a production. It was really cool. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Got time for like one or two more questions. So
yeah.
What's some really good advice that you've been given in your career?
Some of this I just learned is don't be afraid to try stuff. We're not talking about, you know, drugs. I'm talking about, like, you know, try stuff. Like, try making something, or try painting something, or try modeling something, or those kind of things. And don't be afraid to fail, because all of us do. One of the best pieces of advice I got was from Carl Weathers, who sadly passed away 2 years ago. I worked with him every day on season 3 of The Mandalorian. He was Grief Karga, and I played his droid Copper. And so I would always come to set with the mask on, because I'm in Star Wars, I'm a nerd, I want other people to have a fun moment where they get to see a droid on a Star Wars set. That's what I was doing, the same thing I was doing at Comic-Cons, you know. And so I would come on to set, like that, and I'd look for something to interface with. Yes, whatever. And because the cameras, you imagine the cameras are always rolling. So then we'd go right into rehearsals. So I'm with Carl in a scene, and then we go right into filming. So I didn't have to take the mask off. So the first few takes on season 3 in his office there, Carl goes, "Chris, I want you to take off the mask." And I go, "All right, Carl, I'm done messing around." And he says, "I want you and I to have an emotional connection. I can hear your voice, I can hear your emotion, but I can't see your face. So I want the audience to see that our characters have an emotional connection. So when you take it off, I can get that, we can get that, and then you put it back on, and I can still, in my mind, see your face. And that way, you and I will have an emotional connection, and the audience will believe that our characters have an emotional connection." And when you go and watch season 3 in his office, when Copper goes out to the balcony and says, "There are Imperial Star Destroyers approaching," and he says, "No, those are our friends. Those are the Mandalorian privateers. See, look at the markings." That conversation is right after when Carl said this. And you will look at us looking at each other and talking. I just have these round, glowing eyes. But it is a mentor-mentee situation. And it is not Grief Karga and Copper. It is Carl and Chris. And he just was so generous in that way. To us, he was a 10-foot-tall legend, of action and direction and everything. But he was just coming to work because he wanted to tell compelling stories with interesting characters. And he wanted to do it with you, not by himself. He was the real deal. So that was great advice.
Well, I can't think of a better way to end than that story. That's the way to go. So where can they find you? You're still here till the end of the day. Tell them where you're at.
Yes. Just outside the main hall, right next to the dreaded ticket area. I'm right on the other side of that. There's also other people from Ahsoka and Mandalorian over there too.
And folks may not know you're also a very talented artist as well, and you've got some
thanks.
art for sale there, and you're doing some sketches. And
I do.
You've got
do a little
a Roosevelt shirt that
I
collaborated with them.
So
you're an all-around great person.
Wow, thanks. No, so you'll have to come by. I'm also on Instagram, Chris F. Bartlett, and that's where you can find me. So I have plenty of more stories that I would love to share. And people ask, "Are you working on anything else?" And I go, "Well, thanks for coming over." No. I have worked on some other things, some on-camera roles that
the furry legs we replied to.
Oh, that one too.
Yeah.
I've done some horror. I played Satan in the incarnate as
with Courtney Cox, right?
With Courtney Cox in a show called Shining Veil, where I played the creepy goat. My role was to forcibly impregnate her character, and that was I went from Disney to the devil, yay, in like one step, because they were like, "Hey, we've seen your work on Mandalorian, we think you'd be good for this." I'm like, "Oh, cool, what am I going to be doing?" And they're like,
I remember when you told me, you're like, I don't even want to tell you, but don't watch the show.
What does it look like? They're like, "It looks like a dirty Cookie Monster," and I'm like, "It doesn't look like that at all." It looks like a corpse, rotting goat head with this furry body, and it was that was a whole nother thing. But anyway, it was a lot of fun. Then I've done some I got a comedy series that's going to be coming out maybe later this year called Schmitty Circuit. It's about a family who's got a little toy robot that comes to life, and he's been recording everything that's been happening in the house for the last 30 years. And he's just trying to be helpful, but he's revealing a lot of embarrassing stuff. And I designed and built the robot, and he is played by Christine Gailey, who coincidentally plays R2-D2. She's the new R2-D2. So 3PO and R2 working together again. So yeah, I'm excited for that.
Well, thank you. Make sure you get a chance to see Chris before the day's over. But ladies and gentlemen, the droid you can't avoid, and my friend Chris Bartlett, everybody.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you guys.